You've been told all your life, be nice, be kind, always put others first. But let me tell you something that might shock you. Being too nice is not a strength. It's a business you build around yourself. And if you don't break free, it will you are. Too is the. When you're constantly trying to please everyone around you, you end up pleasing no one, not even yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that being kind and agreeable will lead to acceptance and love. But what you're really doing is compromising cool. Every time you say yes, when you really want to say no, you push your own needs, desires, and boundaries to the side. You sacrifice your own voice for the comfort of others, and over time, that starts to erode your sense of self. You become a reflection of what others want you to be, not the authentic person you're meant to be. You might think it's harmless, but little by little, this self-sabotage builds up until you feel lost and disconnected from your. Being too nice isn't just about what you're doing for others. It's also about what you're not doing for yourself. You silence your own voice, your own truth, in the name of avoiding conflict or upsetting someone. The problem is, when you do this, you begin to lose his eye. Eindinger. Einus Engen. Your goals and ambitions become secondary to other people's needs, and that's when you stop living for yourself. This might seem like a noble thing at first, but in the long run, it creates a toxic cycle of self-neglect. You're putting others first, while silently, to your zoo, you can't expect to thrive when you've been sacrificing your growth for the comfort of others. The illusion of being nice often comes with the expectation that you will be rewarded for your effort. Recognize your sacrifices and respect your willingness to put their needs before your own, right? The truth is, people rarely appreciate the person who bends over backwards for. Because there's no real value in a relationship where one party is constantly giving without receiving. When you're too nice, you're not giving from a place of strength or authenticity. You want validation. You want approval. And so you give and give and give, hoping that eventually someone will notice. But that never happens. Instead, you become the person people take advantage of. Because they know you'll always say yes. And the worst part is, when you're always giving, you're never asking for what you need. Your own voice is drowned out in the noise of everyone else's demand. You start to feel like your needs don't matter, that you're not allowed to ask for help, to set boundaries, or to make your own desires a priority. When you silence your own needs, you reinforce the belief that your worth is tied to how much you can do for others, rather than how much you deserve to take care of yourself. This mindset is dangerous because it slowly eats away at your confidence and self-respect. Either, wow, it's You start to believe that the only way to be loved or valued is by giving endlessly without ever considering your own well-being. Over time, this pattern leads to burnout. You find yourself exhausted, mentally drained, and emotionally depleted. But so focused on making sure everyone else is happy that you forget to take care of yourself. But the truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. When you give so much of yourself without replenishing your own energy, you will eventually burn out. Oh. You will feel resentful, frustrated, and unappreciated. You've been trying to make others happy at the expense of your own happiness, and it will leave you feeling hollow inside. You may even begin to question why people don't value your sacrifices, why they don't seem to appreciate you. Deal. It's because they can sense that your kindness is not coming from a place of abundance, but from a place of desperation. The hardest part is realizing that this behavior is not only hurting you, but it's also holding you back from potential. Focus. When you're constantly pleasing others, you're not making decisions based on your own desires or goals. You're making them based on what's expected of you. You might think you're doing the right thing, but in reality, you're not challenging yourself. You're not delving. Instead, you're staying stuck in a cycle of self-sacrifice that keeps you small. You were meant to shine, to be bold, to take risks and chase your dreams. But as long as you're tethered to the idea of being too nice, you'll never reach the heights you're capable of. You'll always be held back by the fear of upsetting others. And that's no way to live. You might think that staying in the background, avoiding conflict, and playing it safe is the best way to live a peaceful, problem-free life. But here's the harsh reality. Blending in doesn't. The world doesn't need more people who are afraid to stand out, to raise their voices, to challenge the status quo. If you're always hiding in the shadows, never fully stepping into your own power, you're wasting your potential. Being too nice keeps you from standing tall, from demanding what's yours, and from claiming the space that you deserve. And if you don't have the courage to step forward, you will remain invisible, unnoticed, and unappreciated. When you're too nice, you are essentially saying that your value lies in staying comfortable, in avoiding confrontation, and in pleasing others. But here's the truth. With you around you, you lose the opportunity to stand out in your own unique way. You diminish your own uniqueness in order to be part of the crowd. And in doing so, you allow others to dictate your place in the world. Your voice is a powerful tool that can inspire, lead, and create change. But when you keep it quiet out of fear, or because you're worried about upsetting someone, you lose that influence. You're not here just to exist. You're here to make an impact. Ah. Hmm. Hmm. But that can only happen when you stop hiding and start showing up as the bold, unapologetic force you were meant to be. Your reluctance to challenge others, to take a stand, or to assert your own opinions only feeds the cycle of silence. Being too nice doesn't just prevent you from growing, it keeps you stuck in a place where mediocrity reigns. You may avoid confrontation, but in the process, you avoid opportunity as well. The fear of upsetting others by standing your ground means you're too often passed over for promotions, overlooked for leadership opportunities, and left behind while others step up. If you're not stepping into the limelight, you're allowing others to take your space. Ah. Oh. The people who are making waves, those who are getting noticed, are the ones who speak up, who challenge what's wrong, and who are unafraid to be different. The world rewards those who are willing to step into their power, not those who are afraid to rock the boat. Uh, every time you suppress your true thoughts, your real opinions, and your unique perspective, you dilute the value you bring to the world. You may think that by remaining quiet, by letting others take the spotlight, you're being kind. But kindness doesn't mean silence. It means knowing when to speak up and when to listen. Your experience or your innovation. The world needs your voice, your ideas, your authenticity. When you choose to stay silent out of a desire to please or avoid conflict, you're depriving others of the chance to see things from your perspective. And that's a loss for everyone involved. Your voice has the power to challenge, inspire, and push boundaries, but only if you're willing to use it. We've all been conditioned to believe that in order to fit in, we must shrink ourselves, downplay our strengths, and avoid doing anything that might upset the delicate balance of those around us. But that mindset is what keeps you stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. Oh. When you always play it safe, you never take risks. And when you never take risks, you never grow. And growth is what allows you to truly become the person you were meant to be. The fear of being disliked, the fear of rocking the boat, holds you back from potential. Oh. Wow. When you were not put on this earth to stay in the background, to fade into the noise of others. When you stop trying to please everyone, when you stop fearing judgment, that's when you'll start to see real change in your life. Kufa. The truth is, Being too nice keeps you trapped in a cycle of people pleasing, a cycle that stops you from pursuing your dreams and taking bold actions. Every time you choose to sit back and avoid stepping up, you're telling yourself and the world that your voice doesn't matter. Ah, ah, ah. That took something greater, but success, fulfillment, and growth only come to those who are willing to face discomfort, time to take risks. Let's go for when you let go of the need to please others, when you stop being afraid to stand out, you unlock a world of possibilities. You'll start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, and you'll find the courage to take them. You were meant to shine. When you're too nice, you unknowingly give away your power. You become a passive participant in your own life, constantly adjusting your choices to fit what others expect of you, rather than what you truly desire. Every time you suppress your opinions or overextend yourself to meet someone else's needs, you give up a little bit of control over your own life. The danger in this is subtle but powerful. It erodes your sense of autonomy. Orsa and Dimion. You might think you're being a good person by prioritizing others, but you're essentially diminishing your ability to make decisions that serve your own best interests. The more you allow others to dictate the terms of your life, the less you start to feel like the captain of your own foe. Whoa. Your sense of self-worth gets tied to the approval of others when you're too nice. You start believing that in order to be loved, accepted, or valued, you must constantly give and be agreeable. But here's the harsh reality. This isn't love, it's dependency. It's not a relationship based on mutual respect or true admiration, but a one-sided dynamic where you're doing all the bending and the other person is doing all the taking. And that's a dangerous mindset. Or it's a slow, insidious process where your own self-esteem becomes dependent on meeting other people's needs, leaving you empty and unfulfilled. You become so focused on being liked or accepted that you forget what it means to be loved for who you truly are, not for how much you give or how much you do for others. This constant giving without receiving doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your sense of purpose, your clarity, and your future. The problem with being too nice is that it keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-neglect. You become so focused on pleasing everyone else that you lose sight of your own goals and dreams. When was the last time you asked yourself what you truly want? How often do you make decisions based on what will keep others comfortable? The truth is, when you're constantly prioritizing others over yourself, you risk living a life that's not truly your own. Instead of chasing your own aspirations, you end up chasing validation. You start measuring your worth by how much you can do for others, how much you can give, and how much people like you. But none of this will ever fill the emptiness inside. The loss of power that comes from being too nice. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about protecting your own well-being and creating space for your own needs. But when you're too nice, you become afraid to set those boundaries. You're terrified that saying no or worry both. So you continue to overextend yourself, ignoring your own needs in favor of others. The truth is, without boundaries, you become a doormat for others to walk all over. And eventually, this lack of boundaries will make you resentful, frustrated, and exhausted. You cannot expect to thrive when you've sacrificed your peace of mind and energy to please others. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for your survival and growth. It's how you take back your power and reclaim control over your own life. Furthermore, when you're too nice, you start to attract people who take advantage of your kindness. You may think you're building connections by being accommodating, but what you're really doing is creating a pattern where others begin to, in return, harm you. How? Over time, this dynamic breeds resentment. You'll start to feel like you're always the one putting in effort, always the one making sacrifices, while others take without giving anything back. Eventually, you begin to question why you're putting in all this energy, only to feel unappreciated and unimportant. People can sense your desperation for validation, and they can easily take advantage of it. This is why it's so important to break the cycle of being too nice. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who drain you instead of lifting you up. The deeper danger, though, is how this impacts your growth. The act of constantly giving without receiving leaves you emotionally and mentally drained. You lose the energy to pursue your own goals, to chase after what you really want. Instead, you become consumed by everyone else's needs, constantly reacting to what they want, rather than proactively shaping your own life. This stops you from evolving into the person you're meant to be. When you're not protecting your own energy, when you're constantly catering to others, you're not leaving room for the things that truly matter to you. Your dreams, your passions, your ambitions. It's a life lived for others at the expense of your own potential. You're a shafter. Without setting into your own power, you'll find that you spent your entire life being the person everyone else wanted you to be. And none of it will have truly been for you. When you live your life trying to be too nice, you often find yourself trapped in a cycle of self-neglect. You may think that by constantly prioritizing others, you're doing the right thing, that you're being selfless and noble. Oh, whoa, you have built. But the reality is, you're You're sacrificing your own well-being for a fleeting sense of acceptance. Every time you say yes, when you really mean no, or agree to something just to avoid conflict, you create distance between your tree overview. Foul. We lost touch with your own desires into the background as you bend to the will of others. Until one day, you wake up and realize you've lost touch with who you are. The more you give without replenishing yourself, the emptier you become. You may feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and resentful, yet you find yourself stuck, unable to break free from the pattern of people pleasing. This kind of behavior leads to a deep inner conflict. You tell yourself that you're being kind, that you're helping others. But inside, you feel a sense of dissatisfaction. You've been putting everyone else's needs first. The truth is, when you focus so much on making others happy, you neglect your own happiness. It's not selfish to ask for what you need. It's a fundamental act of self-respect. If you can't stand anyone else to respect them, puppy. This constant self-sacrifice erodes your self-worth and leaves you feeling invisible. You become so focused on making sure everyone around you is okay that you forget to take care of your own heart, your own soul. You begin to feel like your worth is only fill and do for others, and that mindset is toxic. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of endless giving, you feeling drained and unappreciated. Eventually, this unhealthy pattern starts to take a toll on your mental and emotional health. People who are constantly giving without receiving find themselves overwhelmed by a sense of burnout. You might think that being nice means helping others to the point of exhaustion, but that's not kindness. It's martyrdom. The more you give, the less energy you have for your own. You may feel disconnected from your own desires, caught in a never-ending loop of trying to meet the expectations of others. But true kindness isn't about sacrificing your peace or happiness for someone else. It's about knowing when to say no, when to set boundaries, and when to prioritize your own well-being. Without doing this, you risk losing yourself in the process. You'll find yourself stuck in a place where you're doing so much for others that you have nothing left for yourself. And that's a recipe for resentment and exhaustion. What makes this situation even worse is the expectation that your constant sacrifices Oh. You believe that by being the nice person who is always there for others, people will appreciate you and reciprocate. But in reality, They don't. Most people don't respect their own boundaries. When you're too nice, others start to take you for granted. They know they can rely on you to say yes, no matter what, and that makes you less valuable in their eyes. They may appreciate your kindness, but they won't respect you for it. People don't value passivity. They value strength, confidence, and the ability to stand up for what's right. When you're constantly accommodating others at the expense of yourself, you create an environment where your efforts go unnoticed and unappreciated. You've given everything you have, and yet you're left feeling empty. Helpesel and helpetelisanver kallenvar. This imbalance is often rooted in a deep fear of rejection. You're terrified that if you set boundaries or say no, people will think you're selfish or unkind, and they'll abandon you. The truth is, being too nice is often a defense mechanism against this fear. These oils and you try to maintain peace and harmony at the cost of your own happiness because you're afraid of the consequences of standing your ground. But here's the reality. You cannot please everyone. Nor should you. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, even if it means disappointing them at times. The ones who are only interested in what they can get from you will eventually take advantage of your kindness. It's not the nice people who attract respect. It's the people who know their worth, who stand firm in their values, and who aren't afraid to say no when necessary. In order to protect your emotional health and preserve your energy, you have to let go of the fear of rejection and embrace the power of setting healthy boundaries. The long-term consequences of being too nice are serious. You can find yourself stuck in a toxic pattern where you're constantly overgiving and under-receiving, unable to break free from the cycle of self-neglect. This leads to feelings of resentment and burnout. It also leads to a lack of personality. When you're always living for others, you lose sight of your own goals, passions, and dreams. You become a mere shadow of who you could be, constantly putting out fires for everyone else, while ignoring the spark that's meant to drive you forward. The only way to break free from the cycle is by reclaiming your personal power. You have to stop being a people pleaser and start being a self-respecter. Stop giving your energy away to those who don't value it being. When you prioritize yourself, you'll begin to see the world through a different lens. One that allows you to create boundaries, pursue your own dreams, and live a life that is truly your own. Being too nice can often feel like a form of emotional sabotage especially when it leads to a lack of genuine connection. While you might think that constantly accommodating others will foster stronger bonds, it often has the opposite effect. People don't form deep, lasting relationships with those who are always available to please them or fulfill their needs without ever a Relationships built on self sacrifice and unreciprocated giving aren't based on true respect or mutual understanding. They are one sided and they lack real depth. When you're always bending over backward for others, it may feel like you're earning their affection. But what you're really doing is reinforcing a dynamic where you're the giver and they're the taker. Ends Minu's kind of relationship becomes transactional, leaving you feeling unfulfilled and drained, while the other person feels no genuine obligation to reciprocate your kindness. The truth is, people are naturally drawn to those who have a sense of self-respect and the ability to set boundaries. When you constantly say yes to everyone's demands and suppress your own needs, you inadvertently send the message, Wagda, wa, why, yeah, how? If you never speak up for yourself or assert your own desires, it's easy for others to see you as a doormat. This dynamic creates an environment where people feel they can take advantage of you without any regard for your well-being. But when you stand up for yourself, when you express your own needs and wants, it shifts the dynamic entirely. It's not about being selfish. It's about showing others that you value yourself enough to take up space. When you value your own time and energy, others will begin to respect that too. This leads to healthier, more fulfilling relationships where both parties contribute and benefit. Moreover, the need to always please others often stems from a deep-seated insecurity. Fear of rejection, fear of being unloved, or fear of being judged. When you base your self-worth on others' approval, you are constantly chasing validation, always putting yourself in a position where your happiness depends on someone else. This need for external validation can become an exhausting cycle. Vali, the more you try to gain approval through self-sacrifice, the more you diminish your own value. It's a dangerous trap because it leads to a constant search for affirmation from others, while completely ignoring the fact that true fulfillment. You cannot fill an empty heart by relying on others to constantly give you the love and acceptance you're missing. When you start validating yourself, when you realize that your worth is inherent, you stop seeking approval and start living for your own happiness. And as Sapan saying, this shift in mindset is the key to breaking free from the need to please everyone around you. Being too nice also keeps you in a constant state of indecision and inaction. You fear making the wrong choice because you're so concerned with how your decision will affect others. This indecisiveness leads to missed opportunities, personal stagnation, and a lack of direction. Dara for Dida. Dafittu Vayorun. You lose a bit more of your ability make choices as this inability to make decisions based on your own will. 5 days will. You wait for permission, for reassurance, for someone else to tell you what's right. In the meantime, your dreams, your goals, and your potential fade into the background. By constantly seeking approval, you're preventing yourself from stepping into your own power and making the bold decisions that will propel you forward. You don't need anyone's permission to live your life. What you need is the confidence to trust your own instincts and take action based on what feels right for you. The longer you stay in this pattern of being too nice, the more you start to lose your sense of purpose. Your life becomes about fulfilling the expectations of others instead of pursuing your own dreams and passions. You start living on autopilot, responding to the needs of everyone around you while pushing your own goals to the side. You might even forget what it is that excites you. What fuels your passion? Because you've been so focused on making everyone else happy. The problem with living for others is that you lose touch with the very essence of what makes you unique. You were put on this earth to create, to challenge, to pursue your dreams, and to build the life you want for yourself. But when you're too busy trying to meet everyone else's expectations, you become a shadow of your true potential. You stop prioritizing your own aspirations and instead, your life becomes a reflection of other people's desires, and before you know it, you've forgotten what it means to truly live for yourself. Ultimately, being too nice doesn't lead to the kind war. You are serious, and yes, kindness is important, but self-respect, assertiveness, and healthy boundaries are equally crucial for personal growth. When you make a habit of always putting others before yourself, you're not just risking your own happiness. You're setting yourself up for a life of missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. The more you ignore your own needs and desires, the more you lose sight of the person you're meant to become. True fulfillment comes when you take responsibility for your own happiness. When you make decisions that align with your true self. And when you stand strong, the for wo. It's not selfish to take care of yourself first. It's necessary. Only then can you show up as the best version of yourself for the world around you. Only then can you fully embrace the life that you deserve. When you are too nice, you often give up the opportunity to truly understand your own needs and desires. It's easy to get caught up in the habit of putting others first, but this pattern prevents you from tuning important to you. Whoa. Whoa. By constantly trying to accommodate others, you suppress your own voice. You stop listening to your gut, your dreams, and your instincts because you're so focused on making sure everyone else is happy. But if you don't know what you want or what your own limits are, how can you expect others to respect them? The more you focus on pleasing others, the less you invest in your own growth. You end up living a life that is reactive, shaped by the expectations of others. Your workhorse. Over time, this lack of self-awareness can leave you feeling disconnected, lost, and unsure of your own identity. You may find yourself asking, what do I even want? Because you've been so busy fulfilling everyone else's view. This constant self-sacrifice creates a dangerous dependency on external validation. The more you give, the more you expect others to appreciate your kindness and reciprocate. But the reality is, but in reality, you're merely reinforcing what you do for others, not who you are. The problem with this mindset is that it leads you to neglect your own sense of self. You may feel unseen, unappreciated, and even resentful. Instead of being loved for the person you are, you become loved for what you can do. Your sense of self-worth becomes dependent on how much you give. And this can lead to burnout, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. The key to breaking free from this cycle is to realize that your value doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from within. Only when you stop seeking validation externally can you truly begin to stand in your own power and embrace your worth. In trying to please everyone, you often give up your power to make decisions that align with your values and desires. Oh, being overly accommodating makes you afraid to assert your needs or make choices that might upset others. You begin to live in fear of disappointing someone, and in doing so, you abandon your own goals and desires. This can make you feel stuck, as though you're constantly at the mercy of everyone else's expectations. You may find yourself indecisive, unsure of what you truly want, because you're so used to seeking consensus over. The longer you live in this way, the harder it becomes to reclaim your sense of direction. You're so focused on making sure others are happy that you lose sight of what makes you happy. Eventually, this leads to a life where you're not making proactive decisions for your own future, but reacting to the needs and expectations of those around you. This fear of making waves, of standing up for yourself, can lead to missed opportunities and regrets. Moreover, when you're too nice, you can end up surrounding yourself with people who take advantage of your willingness to put others first. But as time passes, they start to file as someone. The more you give, the more they take. And soon, you're in a relationship where you're the one always making sacrifices. You start to realize that you're not getting anything in return. This dynamic breeds resentment or war. Oh. You may even feel manipulated, as though your efforts are being exploited. The people who respect you are the ones who see your worth and treat you with mutual respect, not the ones who simply take from you without giving anything back. Movie. It's important to recognize when you're being taken for granted and to start asserting yourself. True, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, not one-sided giving. Can lead to emotional burnout. Amru. Ah. You stir them. When you're constantly focused on fulfilling the needs of others, you neglect your own emotional and physical health. You push your own feelings aside, convincing yourself because there are always others who need you. However, the more you neglect your own well being, the more exhausted, resentful, and frustrated you become. This burnout is not only physical but emotional as well. Over time, you might feel empty yourself, there's nothing left. But self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary for your survival. If you don't take time to recharge and nurture your own needs, you'll eventually reach a breaking point where you have nothing left. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean being selfish. It means giving yourself the energy and space to be the best version of yourself finally. Being too nice keeps you from setting the boundaries that are essential for her. Boundaries aren't about being harsh or unkind. They're about protecting your mental, emotional, and physical health. When you're too nice, you avoid setting boundaries because you're afraid of disappointing others or upsetting them. But without boundaries, you become vulnerable to being taken advantage of. And over time, this can lead to feelings of anger, frustration, and resentment. You may find yourself saying yes when you really more than you're able or willing to give return. Wow. This lack of boundaries drains your energy and leaves you feeling overwhelmed. The truth is, setting boundaries is a form of self-respect, not selfishness. When you learn to say no without guilt, your time and your peace of mind. Cough. Oh. It's only by setting clear boundaries that you can preserve your power and take control of your own life. The truth is, being too nice isn't a virtue, it's a trap. It's a pattern that leaves you exhausted, unfulfilled, and disconnected from who you really are. substantive. Ba. Ah. When you live your life constantly trying to please others, you forget the most important person in your world, yourself. True kindness, the kind that leaves a lasting impact, starts with self-respect. It's about knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and making choices that align with your own values and desires. When you start living authentically and confidently, you'll not only attract the right people into your life, but also create the space to nurture. Ah, ah, ah. Remember, you are worthy of love, respect, and kindness. Not because of what you can give to others, but simply because of who you are. So, take a stand. Be true to yourself and step into the power that comes with honoring your own needs. The moment you stop being too nice is the moment you start living life on your own terms with true strength, purpose, and fulfillment.